Hello Internet. So a slightly different setup than normal today because I'm currently travelling with work, but I decided to bring Storm in the Gap along with me so I could try and squeeze in a game on this teeny tiny table in my hotel room. I'm playing Scenario 7 from Storm in the Gap. This is one of the learning scenarios that only needs one map, and given the limited table space I've got, it's the only one I can realistically play. I don't really have space for any 2-map games. And this has the West German Panzer Grenadiers along this road here, with a Lux there, and rolling in is going to be some Soviets. There's going to be 8 T-80s and 1 anti-tank vehicle coming in as well. It's an 8-turn scenario. The Russians have initiative, so they get to move before the first formation cards start going. There are 2 formation cards in the deck for this unit, so they can possibly activate a bit more frequently. And for victory, the Soviets need to cross the entire map and take control of both of these city hexes here in C10 and B10. And in addition to the 8 platoons of tanks it's already sending in, the Soviets also have 2 high explosive OBAs of 3-4 strength, which they can use from turn 2 onwards. And the Allies, they have a couple of infantry anti-tank weapons. So the infantry that are being transported in those Marders, if they can get into a good position, they've got a good chance of taking out some of these T-80s. Again, I'm not going to break down every die roll, I'm not going to show every single movement, but I'll try and show the interesting parts of this battle. Let's get playing. The first turn didn't go too well for the Soviets. As they were moving through this city into position here, the West Germans took a few pot shots and managed to take out 1 platoon of tanks here, another platoon of tanks as they moved up here in the real impulse. So there's already 2 T-80s in the casualty box here. So there's only 6 platoons left. The West Germans managed to come down this road and move into position. This Marder here has unloaded its infantry here. This one's going to plan to offload it, possibly in these woods, possibly where it is, somewhere around here. And when they've got their ATGMs out, this infantry squad's going to be able to cover all the Soviets coming down this way. And this one's going to cover them making it to the city proper. So you've got a big stack of bundle here. This turn they do get hold of their high explosive OBA. So if that headquarters has got a line of sight around here anywhere, there's going to be some fire dropping. And all they've really got to do is, they've just got to make it past this line really. Once they've got the line of sight defence of these woods, then they're going to be able to make it to that city, hopefully. So the West Germans do have a fight to put up, but where they've got 2 formation cards in the deck, they do have double the chances. But because it's all ATGM, anti-tank guided missiles, we're making missile reloading checks every single time, so they can quite easily lose all their firepower. So, on to turn 2. Heading into turn 3, things are not going very well for the Soviets. In turn 2, they didn't activate at all, so they're now held on this end of operations card, so they're definitely coming next time. So their off-board artillery didn't get used whatsoever. They still have 2 good shots. So now they've lost 3 of their T-80 platoons, 5 spread out, 1 anti-tank truck as well, and they do have 1 disrupted and reduced T-80, which could go again. The West Germans have been really handy. They managed to spread out. They've got the infantry ATGM here ready to cover this approach to the city. And they've got the other one is loaded into the vehicle here to reposition. And they've managed to spread out, so hopefully they can reduce any damage from this OBA that's going to be coming in. It could all go downhill for them in turn 3. After turns 3 and 4, the Soviets are slowly moving into position, and they have finally taken out one of the West German forces, the Marder platoon. Now they have got a good bit of coverage from these woods, so the only thing that there's got any line of sight to them is this Lux at the moment. And that really, as a recon unit, is much more there for breaking their concealment than anything else, with its 326 armour-piercing firepowers. It's going to struggle to do any damage whatsoever. The first high explosive OBA has been fired by the Soviets, and they've got 1 more left. Still got this one Disruptors guy, but they do now have a chance to rush onto the city, especially as the Jaguar 2 that is sitting there is currently under a reloading missiles counter, so that may not even be able to fire. Well, halfway through the game, they've got a chance to rush up any minute. And surprisingly, in the last turn, despite having 2 cards, the West Germans didn't activate at all, so they're on an end operations card here to ensure they come in this turn. On with the game. Heading into turn 7, the Soviet push is really getting somewhere. There's one T-80 knocking on the door, and that unit there is disrupted. Not just disrupted, but also reloading missiles and reduced. That Jaguar is really going to be putting up a fight to keep that Victory City safe. However, this reduced headquarters and the disrupted units around it are not helping matters that much. One of the Milan, the infantry-powered ATGMs, is reloading missiles. There's another one sitting here, which is fine pot shots, but because of its minimum range of 3, it's either got to move into the open to get into range, to make up the range, or you can just move through this hex and they can't do anything about it. Still got the Marder up here that can rain some fire down, but again, that woods is in the way of most shots. And well, he's got a clear line to that hex, but anyways, it's long range, so they've got a chance to push in if things play out well enough. Looking at the play so far, the Soviets still have that one last high explosive OBA they can bring in, which is going to really turn the tide, I think. In terms of casualties, the West Germans are staying alive much better than all these destroyed T-80 platoons. But once again, failed to draw the Panzer Grenadiers West German card. Despite having 2 in the deck, they didn't draw them at all last turn, so they're in the end ops card ready to come on for a guaranteed activation on turn 7. Only 2 turns left, and it can go either way. And would you believe it, in turn 7, the Soviet forces didn't get a chance, so they've got to get hold of these 2 hexes with these small smattering units in 1 turn, 1 activation. It's a guaranteed activation because they didn't get one last turn, but they're still a good defensive West German force. So those card draws really ruined that turn 7 for the Soviets, and I think this is them throwing in the towel. It's not impossible, but you're going to have to get very lucky with some defensive rolls. Let's see what happens. And in the end, it turned out to be a Soviet win. The West German forces, they got 2 activations in that final turn. They fired with everything they got, they just couldn't do anything. The T-80s managed to undisrupt. They still had the old anti-tank missile carrier there. That was stay disrupted, which was neither here nor there. And because the unit defending had no missiles, and everyone else was getting missiles used and getting ops complete, trying to blast as much farm as they could, the Soviets went into this hex, and with 2 units left, they managed to just win an assault by 1 hit to no hits, forcing the Jaguar to retreat. There had been one more chance that game, but this one really came down to the wire. Really enjoyed this scenario. It was a really good way to spend a couple of hours when I'm stuck in a hotel on a work trip. Hopefully next time though, I'll get a bigger table space than if I'm ever stuck in a hotel again. But until next time, happy gaming!